Good morning and welcome to Some Time in the Word with Richmond Hill Community Church. Well, summer is almost over. I know, I hate to say it, someone had a conversation with me a few days ago and said we're probably past most of the hot weather that we're going to get. And we may have a glimpse here and there in September, but this might be it. So, it's pretty painful to say goodbye to summer, but fall is coming and the leaves will be changing, and that'll be just a miraculous time to behold God's beauty in creation. I don't know if you on your property or wherever your home is or wherever you live, if you have vines. I want to tell you a little story about a vine in my property. So we moved here in November, in the middle of the winter, and I noticed on the side of our property a vine that was wrapped around the chain link fence to the left side of our property on the property line of our property and our neighbor's property. And so as we got through winter and as we came into spring, this vine started to come alive again, and it absolutely overtook the chain link fence all the way down the side of our property, and it's really just kind of a privacy barrier between our neighbor and their patio. And it's pretty good. It's beautiful, and it's really growing, and it's grown over the summer, so much so that it started to come across on another side of the fence that's kind of at our gate going to the back of our property. And so it crept over and it started to move across the gate and then get kind of entangled in the latch, and I couldn't close the latch properly. So I had to cut off parts of those vine. And it didn't take long after I cut those vines off and kind of left them by the side of the house for those vines to kind of shrivel up and lose their life. Now I brought a piece of newly cut vine, and it kind of looks like this, still kind of full of life. But before long, those pieces that I cut started to look like this. Not so great, not so full of life, and kind of dry and really dying and dead. Vines and vineyards are mentioned in numerous places in God's Word. In our passage today from John 15, which Krista read earlier, Jesus utilizes the common cultural metaphor to the nation of Israel to illustrate a powerful message. In the story of the Bible, the nation of Israel is often symbolized by a vine or a vineyard. In the Old Testament, in Isaiah 5 and 7 and Hosea 10 and 1, they're just a couple of examples. In this passage today, Jesus declares that He is the vine, the true vine, that God is the gardener, God the Father, and we are the branches. Our passage today tells us that the gardener, God, performs two functions with the branches of a vine, us. First, those branches that bear no fruit, He removes. Notice Jesus says in verse 2 of John 15, He cuts off every branch in me. Now, to be clear, the phrase here, in me, does not mean the same as Paul's words, in Christ. Here it's a part of the metaphor of the vine, and more accurately means every person who professes to be my disciple, a branch, is not necessarily a true follower. A branch that bears no fruit is obviously dead. Therefore, it is cut off. Now, secondly, the gardener, God, takes the vine branches, us, that are producing fruit, and He prunes them. Though this process of being pruned may not be pleasant or may seem a bit harsh, Jesus says in verse 2 that the purpose of this pruning is so that the branch will be even more fruitful. As we read further down in John 15, it isn't hard to see that our role in this organic relationship of vine and branches is the production of spiritual fruit. It is mentioned numerous times. And the fruit that we produce is really the life and ways of Jesus made manifest in and through us. It is how people see that we are connected to Jesus and are living like he lived, living his life. The word manifest is an interesting word that was brought back to my attention just recently through a book that I've been reading. The verb form of this word means to make evident or certain by showing or displaying. The main point of Jesus' metaphor is that God wants to increasingly produce spiritual fruit in our lives as we live more and more the way that Jesus did. And for this to be possible, Jesus states in John 15:5 that we must abide in him as branches abide in a vine. Jesus says, I am the vine, and you are the branches. If you remain in me, and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. This reference is taken from the NIV. However, in many other translations, the word abide is used instead of remain. In this instance, the words are synonymous with each other. The Greek word for abide actually means to remain, wait for, continue to exist, remain in existence. So we can see the connection. You see, fruitfulness is the result of the Son's life being reproduced in his disciples, in his followers. The disciples' part is to remain, to abide, to be connected to him, so that Jesus' life can be made manifest in our everyday living. So, all this talk about spiritual fruit and spiritual fruitfulness, this may make sense to you, but to others it might not make a whole lot of sense. Well, in the book of Galatians, God's word speaks about some of the things that will be evident in the life of a person who is a true follower of Jesus. The fruit of the Spirit. They are, and some of you will be able to list them with me. If not, that's okay. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. You see, Jesus desires his disciples, his followers, to bear this spiritual fruit by abiding and remaining in him. For their lives to be marked by these amazing realities. It happens both through our faith in and our complete dependence on Jesus. However, Jesus goes on to state that if we do not remain in him, if we do not abide in him, if we do not stay connected to him, we are incapable of bearing this fruit in the truest sense and in any sustainable way. Jesus said this, apart from me, you can do nothing. To bear fruit, we must be rooted and connected to Jesus, the true vine of life. We must remain dependent on Jesus and resist doing things in our own strength. Why? Because without him, we can do nothing of any eternal value. A survey of Jesus' life within the pages of the New Testament reveals that during his earthly ministry, he did nothing on he did nothing under his own energy and power. Time and time and time again, he pointed to the indwelling of his heavenly Father as the single reason why he could do the things that he did. In their book titled Jesus Manifesto, Leonard Sweet and Frank Viola write these words: "The gospel teaches that just as Jesus couldn't do anything of himself, we can't do anything of ourselves. The Christian life is impossible. It's only him possible." They go on to write, "The glory of the gospel is that we who are fallen, tarnished, and marred have been invited to live our lives in the exact same way that Jesus lived his life, by an indwelling Lord. What the Father was to Jesus Christ is to you. He is your indwelling Lord. Him in us, and us in him, the vine and the branches, intimate and powerful connection." So Jesus is reminding us today, in these words from John 15, he's being clear that if we don't stay connected to him, we are guaranteed no fruit that will last. Try as we might to do life on our own, to produce anything of lasting value without him, it's not going to happen. We are going to be frustrated over and over and over again, and we're going to be dry, and we're going to feel empty, and we're going to feel lost. But thanks to God, there's another guarantee in these words today. That is, if we do stay connected to him, we are guaranteed to be fruitful, to bear much fruit, fruit that will last. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. These things will be made evident in us. These things will be manifested in us if we can just live life like Jesus did. If we can just abide in him. Look, let me say this to you. I have absolutely no doubt at all, that this reality will affect the people around you in amazing ways. And living this way will point people to the author and perfecter of your faith, of my faith, of our faith. And that is Jesus. All arrows and everything ought to point to him. And in turn, God's kingdom will grow and God will be glorified in the process. So, if like me, you've ever gotten sidetracked on the road of self-reliance, goodness knows that I have. As I say goodbye to you today, I'd like to remind you to consider this week what it means to utterly and completely depend on God through a relationship with his Son Jesus by the power of his Holy Spirit. Perhaps you'll be considering that for the first time, or maybe you'll be considering how you'll continue to deepen the reality of abiding in him in your own personal life and Christian walk. Either way, if you find yourself on the road of full dependence on Jesus Christ, I can guarantee that much fruit will be your reality, and your life will never be the same. I hope you can share a prayer with me about these things in these moments. God, thank you so very much that you have provided to us a means to be connected with you and connected with a source of life that is your Son, Jesus. God, help us to understand your word today. Understand what it has to say for us as a group of people, as a church, as RHCC, but also what it has to say for us individually. And God, what it is saying, it is encouraging us to keep returning to you, to return to your Son Jesus, to abide in him, to remain connected in him, so that we can bear much fruit in this world, fruit that will last, fruit that will have a positive, a miraculous impact on the people around us for the building of your kingdom. We pray simply in these moments that you would draw us closer to yourself, that you would help us to see the importance of connectedness. God, may we realize that being connected to you helps us to be connected to each other in relationship. Help us to remember each day to engage in one anothering, that we would love one another, pray for one another, encourage one another, and all of those other things that your word commands us to do in relationship. May we be blessed today, but God, use us to bless others. Use us to encourage each other as your body of believers, as your fellowship, as your holy people, but also to encourage those around us who have not yet come into a relationship with your Son Jesus. God, we give you all the glory for all of these things today. We confess that we cannot do anything in our own strength. But God, praise be to you that we can do everything when we abide in you. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.